Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today is going to be a fun video because we are learning the Italian opening. Now, side story, this was the first opening I ever learned when I started studying chess seriously in about 2021, 2022. This was the first opening I learned, and I think it is such a good opening because it's so solid and it's really easy to learn, but it's got enough complexity that it's still played by grandmasters. Like, it is an amazing opening, and it's been played for so long. It was pioneered in like the 1860s or something like that. It is so cool. So this is the Italian game. How did we get here? Well, it's an e4 opening. e4, e5, knight f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. Now, the game branches out here, and there are a few main key moves. The main move we're going to be looking at today is bishop to c5. Why is that? Because I'm going to be giving you a whole video just about this. Why? Because the knight attack, or this is the knight defense rather, can lead to the knight attack with this, which, as you might know, looks a lot like the fried liver. Now, this isn't technically the fried liver because there are ways to avoid it, but this is something that is very interesting. But we're not looking at that today, and also after here, there's also like this solid line. But what we're looking at today is bishop to c5, and this is called the Giuoco Piano. Now, white has several moves here. The most common one by far is to play c3 and prepare for d4. Now we get knight to f6. This doesn't work, looking to double team on that square, because black can simply castle, and then the rook will defend that square. So, this pawn is attacked. Now, there are a couple moves. In the Masters database, the move d3 is played, and this is the Giuoco Pianissimo. So from Giuoco Piano, we are now Giuoco Pianissimo. And the reason is, you're defending the center, and this is quite literally called the quiet variation of the Italian, and this is going to allow you a lot of maneuverability. So we get d6, short castles, a6, a4, bishop to a7, and rook e1. And these are the moves that normally follow each other, and then castles. So we'll stop here. What are the main plans? Well, both players have got very active bishops, pointing at the king. So a plan for black is to try and trade these light squared bishops. So normally, why was a4 played, firstly? To avoid when the knight comes here, you can retreat the bishop. So a plan is to trade. White can sometimes, in anticipation of that, drop the bishop back to b3 and then try and reroute it onto this diagonal, wanting to keep it alive. Because this bishop, once you play kind of h3, it doesn't have a lot of squares in scope. So you'll see, you'll maybe know in certain Spanishes, it gets fianchettoed. But you can't really fianchetto it when you've got this bishop here. The same plan exists for white, to try and trade this bishop over here. So you could play there and capture back with the rook, or capture back with the pawn. Capturing back with the pawn is better if your rook is still on the f-file. And that's why black's plan is to capture back with the f-pawn, because you open up this f-file for the rook. The main key plans for both sides is to reroute the knight. So black does it like this. White can do it a couple of ways. So once the knight gets here, there's a plan to trade the dark square bishops and land the knight on that square. Or once you get all the way here, basically you target which square to go to. And why we reroute the knights to that side of the board is to control these two squares. White will try to land their knights on that square, so this knight will go like this. This knight will, once it lands here, will control that square. Black will reroute their knights and have the same plan here. And you just try to get them good squares. I like my knight here, if we can, because then it can control both squares. And this knight's still got flexibility. And it's a very maneuvering game. There are some lines in which you, as white, you entice black. So you go pin the knight, which we can do now. So after h3, h6, see h6 is played. Both moves are played to stop these pins. If we go back and don't play h3, we can immediately go for this pin, because then h6, and we can play bishop to b4, enticing this. And this is a very aggressive way to play. And you ask black, because this pin is very annoying. The same pin exists for white. The best move according to the engine is to play g5 to keep advantage for black, and then you force the bishop to g3, and then you play knight to h7. So, and then you get this. And kind of we've provoked black into an attack, which is good because they weaken their king. It's bad because you've provoked black into an attack. So white's main idea is to play d4. That is what they're trying to achieve in the system, because you're trying to blunt this bishop. It's not to go here and take and push. You are trying, in a perfect world, to just blunt this bishop. So this diagonal is not a problem. And this is the Giuoco Piano. Like, I don't need to go too much into depth here, like after castles, because you know what the plans are. It's an Italian, so white can still have options to expand on the queen side. Who would you study looking at the Italian? Well, you can study Hans Niemann. He really plays the Italian very well. If you're looking for straight up theory, Hanging Pawns does a fantastic series where he goes super in depth on the Italian. Of course, chess.com has got their own courses and classes and things about it. Chessable is fantastic. Open Book is fantastic. Just go into Elite Chess and you peruse through the variations. So here, for example, the most common move is h3. But if you don't want to play h3, you can immediately begin with this knight reroute plan idea. But let's say h3, h6. Well, now we get knight to b2, rook e8, b4 taking space on the queen side, bishop here offering the exchange. We take with the rook now, and we play like queen c2. And you just play chess, and you maneuver, and you target weak squares, but there can also be tactics, particularly if these bishops remain in play for very long. There can always be tactics because this pawn's not defending these squares. And this is the Italian. Like, it's particularly in this variation, it's very quiet. But of course, none of this has to happen, because you don't have to play d3. We're going all the way back, because another move to play is d4. ed4 and e5. You've got to remember this move, because obviously you will lose the pawn unless you attack the knight. d5 is the move played. Bishop b5, knight to e4, cd4, bishop retreats, and now the knight comes out. And this is very sharp. This is much sharper. It's not as quiet, and this is why the Italian is, for me, one of the best openings to learn and to play, because there are so many different ways to play it, and you can get in a game that's aggressive as you want it. If you're really fiery and you want tactics, you can play the Italian. If you want a very quiet maneuvering game, you can play the Roy Lopez, like a try-hard, or you can play the Italian, which is awesome. It's so classical. It's one of the first openings people really started playing, and where theory was really looked at. And like the Italian game, the start of the Italian, this position, you can see this game. If you see this position, it could be played by two 400s, or it can be played by two 2400s. It is that good. Like, anybody can play it. It is not deathly boring like the London. There is so much. There is so much that you have available. And then obviously we get bishop to c5, the Giuoco Piano. And it's amazing. I hope I've been instructful. The moves are in the description down below, and there will be a video coming very soon about the fried liver. But I hope that was good for you, and I'll see you next time.